Hi, Ahiriana Monica, founder of Atano Fitness Journey, and which sounds strange because this has been a collection of so many people's efforts. We've been at this for quite some time. For those who have been with us, Lillian, Val, Tracy. So yeah, Salma. So when I'm to say I'm the founder, it always feels like that's not true. Yes, so this is the Eternal Fitness Journey podcast, and we are going to. The essence of this podcast is to share our experiences and journeys in our fitness and wellness transformation. Why this is important, it's because at the beginning of this particular journey, I knew one thing for sure, that I wanted to be fit. I wanted to be, in the end, where I really found out that it was much more than looking nice and, But then when it came to actually knowing what you have to do, it was through interacting with different people. And yeah, so I was like, this is actually, you need to know more than the idea of I want to be fit when you're starting this journey. So Eternal Fitness Journey podcast is a platform that is going to share with you how you can actually enter this, and not only enter it so that it's there's this thing where you work out and you're like, okay, I want to fit in my wedding dress. I've seen that like in the movies a lot. Or I have a dinner coming up, I really want to look nice. And then once you hit that milestone, or I want to have 50 kilograms. And once you have that milestone, you sort of go off it. So for us as Eternal Fitness Uganda, this is a lifestyle that we are cultivating, because only then are you able to harness all the advantages that come with taking this on. Why is it even important for you to have this as a lifestyle? Well, the genesis of it all is that the name in itself, like Atano, is a derivative of Atan or Atano, Luganda or Chika, which means 50. And the instance is that we should be able to have a healthy life, like even in our old age. So I was like, you know what? If I'm to say that I'm going to only work out so that I'm not fat, I kind of fear that. So that's actually what really pushed me to start working out in the first place, if I'm to be honest. And but then in the end, as I started to do this, I was like, oh my gosh, this is helping me way more than just my body. And I was like, okay, so how do we actually get to continue doing this? So as a person, normally when I have a goal that transcends the near future, I tend to commit to it more. So I was like, okay, fine, I really would like to still feel healthy and vibrant and active in my 50s and above. So let this journey be about that, so that when you're not right size, but when you're the size you desire as a person, which varies from one person to the other, you still wake up and go to actually do the things that you do. Some people are skipping, some people are going to gym, some people are drinking water, all those different things. So hence the necessity of having it as a lifestyle. Why personally do I want to have it as a lifestyle? I studied architecture, and this is something that I believe in so much, and its ability to solve world problems through space and good design. But when I would go into the background or trying to learn about the best architects in the world, there was one similarity amongst all those people, and it's the fact that they were all old. Like when you look up greatest architects right now, there's going to come Zaha Hadid, Renzo Piano, maybe Frank Lloyd, and all these people, we are seeing them at their prime in their 50s and above. So I'm like, hold up, like, and the person who was really young, Bjarke Ingels, they were like, oh yeah, he has really achieved this while he's still so young. The gentleman was 40 years old. So I'm like, 40 years in architecture is so young. So while everyone else is going to be retiring around 50, 60, retirement age, for us, we are going to still be actively working. So how about you actually make sure that when that time comes for you to be at your peak, at least career-wise, that's what they tell us, honestly. I hope it's not the truth all the time. I hope maybe something can happen whereby for you to be at your prime in architecture doesn't need you to be like 50, 60 years old. Yeah, how about you're actually still healthy? So one of the ways I knew how is through making sure that you work out, making sure that you eat well, you know. And those are at least the two things that I really knew. I come from a background of I can say healthy eating, and I don't think this was because my parents were about the whole let's be healthy. They were both chronically sick. My mom had heart disease and my dad had gout, so it necessitated them to eat well, at least what we consider well, which is eat like natural food, don't fry, and drink natural like juice, milk, porridge, don't go into the whole soda thing. So it wasn't, I can't say that I grew up in a home where my parents were like, let's do this fitness thing, you know. So I grew up eating those foods, and I think I appreciate that. I don't think I really appreciate that, because even right now my palate draws towards those foods. Like I love the market food in Uganda. Uganda has really amazing food. Like if you really want to have a healthy meal, at least like well cooked, you know, you have the luomba and something, Uganda is your place. So yeah, and yet we know that you can't outwork your diet. So there are these people who are going to be like, I'll eat whatever I want, I'll eat the deep fried chicken and everything, then I'll go to gym. But we are learning that these two work hand in hand. So I'm grateful to come from a home whereby that was already like a practice. Like even sugar, like you had to take very little sugar, and we used to complain about it so much, like as in way. And when like you visit an aunt, or you know, they are about take as much as you want, they have cereals, they have this bread, eat at home, you're going to have like sweet potatoes, cassava, you know. Yeah, but now that I grow up, I'm like, oh my gosh, that was actually a really, really healthy way of living. And I appreciate the fact that my taste buds still appreciate it. So yeah, we are looking into that. At least those are the only two things I knew. But like after entering the fitness world more intentionally, you start to find out things like your sleep matters, you know, like the number of hours you sleep is, and then rest days are also important. You know how you think, I'm going to work out from Monday to Friday, run every day, what, and like you actually learn that your muscles are experiencing like wear and tear. And sometimes to even experience better results, you have to rest in that process. Like you can't do a marathon. Or for instance, if you're to start this journey, you don't start straight away from this really harsh and intense workout that you've planned out in your head, and you're like, this has to work this month, you know. Maybe you're going to start with 50 skips, maybe you're going to start with 100, whatever your body can manage. Like in my experience, the body seems to get used to what you have started with and starts to demand for progress. Like if you started with 50 skips, my journey really started with skipping. And reason why I really loved skipping is because it did not necessitate having to get out of my room, and you're in a hostel, you're in a balcony, there's barely any space, and it's quite intense and active. And so that's what I used to do. So you could even skip maybe for 10 minutes and that's it, and you go. So the 10 minutes could seem like nothing when you're starting, but then like 2 weeks later, you're going to realize now you are at maybe 13 minutes. Now it's 15 and you're not tired. So the progressions happen. So there was also learning that as well. Pace yourself. And most people like come in and they are onto these intense plans. Then they get burnt out and then they're like, this thing is not for me. I'm out. So these are the kind of things that we are going to really be looking into. And as of today, in this particular episode, I am going to be sharing candidly about my own story. We're going to be listening to other people's stories. But now let us dive into mine. So it was really pre-COVID. My workout journey actually started way back. I was in high school. I used to play hockey. Most people get shocked when they find that out. Prolaz, yes. Mount St. Mary's Namagunga. Bridget Bain was our captain. They're still going strong. Yes, that's really amazing. So yes, I used to play hockey. And I think that was like my way of being fit. I remember I badly wanted to be in the basketball team, the charities, violas, because they used to go to like the cool tournaments, they would even leave the country. So, but their workouts were intense. I remember I went for I think there was sort of like auditions or something, and you had to do like 6 laps of this intense like jumping jacks, run around laps, and I didn't pass the test. So I was like, you know what? And then I was sore for like a whole week. I was like, this is really, really intense. And yet, hockey was also equally intense. And I love the fact that it was different, and the practice times were more reasonable. And I used to play hockey. At least that's one thing that I can remember when it comes to being active while growing up. I grew up in an outdoor neighborhood, so we played really a lot. That's like in primary, which as you eventually, when you're in the wellness and fitness world, you understand that that's actually also valuable. So children playing is also part of that journey. So and then it was, I think in HSC, my roommate and really amazing friend, Nachikudetina, Christine, she used to run every day and skip. And she was so consistent, like every day around 6 a.m. or even 5:30, she's running tracks around the upper field. And I'm like, wow, I was so inspired because she was actually trimming because she wanted to lose weight, and she really was. And I've always had this, it's not like I've always feared to be a big person, and I was chubby in high school. So I was like, okay, I think I can also start this. So I started to join her, but of course sometimes like you fall off the wagon, and then you get back. Then I remember, I think in my back, I started to run around Mutungo Hill. And so that's how my fitness journey, I can't say if I'm to remember really well, started. But like to really, really intentionally do this, it was in 2019, like more consistently. It was a very hard year for me. I was in architecture school, and it was quite intense. And I will say this: architecture is like this place that collects all these people who have been brilliant all their lives, like in primary, secondary, HSC. You've been doing like really amazingly, and then you reach this place and things are not like that. Like, it's not about what you're given, is what you put out. You put in a process of where you have to create from scratch. So then you have to watch yourself experience certain things for the first time in your life. For instance, I'm certain there are people who had never failed a paper until they reached architecture school. So we have I'd always listen to this, to people talk about how people who are not doing very well in school seem to do better in life. And someone, I don't really remember who it was, tried to rationalize it, and they were explaining, they're like, you see, this person who has grown up not being at the top of everything has, in a way, harnessed the ability to pick themselves up every time things don't work out. If this child, maybe you're like in P2 or something, you fail, you go back home, your parents have this disappointed face, and you're like, how could you do this? This child still has to go back the next term and actually figure out how to still learn and still move on. Or someone who gets to repeat a class and stays behind. And in life, when you really see how life goes, because there isn't a template, it's really trying to figure out things. It's like you do this, you try this, it's not easy, you have to learn how to pick yourself up. So this person has built the muscle on how to deal with those emotions that come with that struggle, because most times if you don't know about it, you only think that this person having to repeat a class only necessitates them having to go and redo it and maybe spend more time. But there is that emotional experience that comes with failing or something. So now there is this situation where you have these minds who have never failed, if I'm to say so. Like, you finish primary, you went to your first choice school in high school. From there, you're like, I want to do architecture. You actually get the point and get to do architecture. Some you go to the best university, some on government sponsorships. So for you, that's how you've always run your life. You want something, sit down, read hard, and you get it. That's how life has been for you until you enter this this course that is like, sorry, things are actually different here. The creation process is an interesting process, because when you see our education system, it's more of, we need you to reproduce what we are giving you. So SST, when did Uganda get independence? 1962, and that's the mode that we are going on, this whole time. Then you reach this place where they're like, so you're going to set your own question, and then you're also going to give us the answer. You are asking me to design a house for a professional of your choice, or even a piece of furniture. So you choose that professional. No one asked you to choose the professional. If you choose a footballer, if you choose an architect, if you choose a medic, you chose that person. Then you start to create this piece, and you have to present it to your supervisor or your tutor, and eventually the jury, of course. And these people are going to say, no, your design does not work. Of course, they are legitimate reasons, because you have to go through all these the instance of design, really, economics, look at how does this work, how does it get built, how do we make sure it also looks nice at the same time. So if I'm to be honest, I think most of us experienced failure in architecture school for the first time. And failure not in the sense of you've gotten a retake, no, but failure in the sense of presenting something to your tutor and they're like, this is not good enough. First of all, this is shock to your system because this has never been the situation before. You've always aced things. If you didn't, it took like maybe about 3 weeks to get back to your footing. So then there is this whole emotional experience that comes with this. First of all, there is like having to calm your ego down, because yes, like if you have never been told you're wrong, now all of a sudden you're being told you're wrong. Is this thing of as in I actually know my things. So the ego is a whole other situation. And then there is this situation whereby if you keep showing up and giving these solutions and they're like, they don't meet the standard, go back, revise this, revise that. Honestly, at least as a person, it took an emotional toll on me. And this was in my 3rd year. I keep on telling people about 3rd year because for me that was like the craziest emotional experience in school, because in architecture school it reached a point whereby it was not just about how hard you work, you also had to love what you're doing, and then you also had to like have ability to actually understand situations. Then it's not just about understanding society and having the desire to solve problems. You also have to like understand the technical aspects of how this will come to life and everything. So to be frank, that was a very intense year for me. And I remember I had these situations where I'm like, what am I even doing if I'm not being good or perfect at this, perfect being the word, because why aren't you being perfect? There was always this whole thing I used to like when I'm in high school. I'm like, how does it go? Perfectionism. Something about how perfectionism cannot be attained. But like I always used to add, and I'm like, but at least you should be willing to shoot for it. You know how they're like, shoot for the stars, and if you don't, shoot for the moon. And if you don't reach the moon, then you can land on the stars, which is ironic because I think the stars are higher than the moon. But in this case, I was like, okay, so shoot for perfection. If you're not perfect, then you'll land somewhere, like very nearby. So yeah, perfectionism, you're like, I want to be perfect at this. Then you reach a place whereby you actually cannot be perfect. From your year 1, year 2, projects just become bigger and more complex. And it reaches a point whereby your ability and willingness to show up and show showing up, being able to accept what you are able to produce and allow yourself to grow, whereby you have to have that humility of I don't know everything. All those are things that I eventually learned, but before that it was so hard because I was like, how do I even move forward if I'm not good or perfect at this? So it came with a mental load on me. I remember I had situations whereby you're just working and you're having these sleepless nights, and it's just piling and piling. So I can say it was during that period that I got depressed. Though my friends told me earlier. Yes, Lauto. They told me around July, I think. And I was like, no, depressed? What do you mean? Depression is for people who don't believe in God. That's what I used to think. God forgive me. Yeah, so I was like, depression is for people who don't believe in God, or people who are like mentally weak. Those are the things I used to think. So someone telling me you might be depressed, these are like my friends who are medics and stuff. I was like, no. So I was in denial. for over a year. Until now, I started to get into those states where I don't want to wake up and everything. And then that's when I was like, you know what, this might be more serious. Or where you are unable to work. I had never been unable to work. I will at least show up, even if the things are going to be wrong, but at least I'll have done them. I was on overdrive. So when those things started to happen, I remember I still used to skip once, because sometimes like my average weight has always been between, at least from when I was from my 20s and over, 50 and 60, 50 to 63. So if I'm like maybe 58 and then I measure and I'm like 61, I sort of like jack into, oh my gosh, I have to work out. So it was around that period that had happened. And so I started to skip as my way of exercising. But then like I started to notice a pattern, because you would skip like on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, you're like, then you get back to it like the next week. I started to notice a pattern that on the days where I would skip, I would actually have an amazing day. Wake up, energize, get into the shuttle, go to class, have a day that is, it's not exactly like perfect, but at least you're able to get out and do things. On like the days I wouldn't, that dark cloud and like damp blanket feeling would be all over me, where you feel like you can't wake up and stuff like that. So now I was like, okay. And I'm this kind of person whereby if it works, I am willing to invest myself to do it. So I was like, okay. So I started to do that more often, and until I started to I used to listen to podcasts every time I was working. And when you're transnighting, and then there was one of these episodes where this gentleman was talking, I wish I could remember so that I could accredit him, talking about how exercise helps with mental health wellness. And I was like, okay, so if I do exercise, I won't have to go into therapy like my friends are saying, which wasn't true, of course, but it really got me into pushing for it more. I remember the first time I ran like 1 kilometer, that was on that Chambogo road, and I felt like my lungs or heart were bursting out of my body. But that's how I started to get into it. And it was around that period where COVID happened. That was now 2020 March, and we closed down, but the feeling was still there, like the not feeling well mentally. So I still continued that exercise, because even at home, every time I worked out, it was an amazing day. So I'm like, okay, fine, we are going to be doing this. And then you start to learn about how exercise affects like your hormones. You're going to produce like dopamine, the same hormone / chemical that is produced when you play games, you're on social media, you drink alcohol. So when you exercise, you get that same hormone, generally the happy hormones, yeah? And so maybe that's how it generally started. So now I start to get into the running, and then I think I had to stop because I experienced an injury. And that's when I met, it was on that running experience that I met Mr. Timothy, Gutsy Runners, really an amazing club, Nalia. They meet at Oryx every Saturday at 6 a.m. That I started to, when I told him about my injury, he was like, I think you have the wrong shoes. And I'm like, what do you mean wrong shoes? These are sneakers, like us, and sneakers what we use for exercise, because PE primary you would wear sneakers. Now I told you they had to be a particular way, and that's what I mean by when you enter this world, then you start, it's like an onion where layers and layers start to peel off. Then I learned that you actually have to have proper wear. And then generally speaking, and that's how it has been till today. And there is this whole idea of course, once you start, you're going to be perfect at it. You're going to be showing up every day for like the 365 days. No, it's not. Because I've had times where I fall off. There are like those really busy seasons and you fall off the wagon. But again, that thing where you learn how to pick yourself up and start, And for me, why fitness even became so important, it's because of the mental experience I used to have. For instance, like there is this thing whereby when I'm running up a hill, it doesn't feel like I'm just running up that particular hill. I'm always associating it with these situations in my life that feel like those hills, that feel like that hill. And when I'm running up this hill and I finally reach the top, I feel like mentally I have conquered this situation. If it's like this project I'm designing and I'm like, okay, I can actually do it. It gave me that empowerment, and also the fact that you learn that you're growing your resilience, you're growing your discipline, you're growing all these things. So fitness ended up, I keep on saying, it ended up saving my bachelor's because I was able to finish school because I was doing fitness. And that's why people used to ask me, how come you're still doing this fitness thing? And it's like, we are all busy, where do you get that time? And I'm like, if I actually don't do this, I'm not even going to get to do the things that I'm saying I don't have time to do fitness for. I won't be able to show up for class. I won't be able to show up for my project. So I have to make fitness work. I remember telling myself that this is as important as showering. You don't wake up one morning and you're like, no, today I'm not going to shower because I'm busy. You get, it's one of those things whereby whether what or what, you find a way to do it. So fitness started to become like that. How the community grew, I used to post on my socials, WhatsApp at the time, like what I have done, because like I would have that euphoric feeling of like I feel so proud of myself. So I'm like, oh my gosh, I did 50 skips today, and then you maybe have like a brief video and everything, and people would sort of like follow up on it. They're like, oh, well done, I also want to start this and everything. So it felt like indirect accountability. So I actually now realize, I'm like, okay, this is actually good, let me continue posting so that I have people to keep me accountable. And that's when now people are like, okay, I also want to start this. How did you start? Where did you get your rope? So, and that's how Eternal Fitness journey began as a group. We were 3 members. 4, yes. It was Valerie, Lillian, Salma, and I. So over time, people are like, okay, I also want to join, and that's how Eternal Fitness journey, the community, really began, where we now keep ourselves accountable. Because now you started, when we're in that group, like when Val would actually post her day when she was going to gym, when I haven't like worked out for 2 days, I feel inspired. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is actually good. So I'm like, this, it helps even when you're not in the same location, to at least have someone you can account to, like someone who's going to show you this is still possible, don't fall off, it's being hard, you can still continue. Then now you start to realize that when you have questions, there's this person who knows something. Then so it has grown into this amazing community where even I myself, I'm still learning today, because I'm not an expert at this. I haven't studied fitness, and yet through constantly doing this and being associated with all these enthusiasts and people who have actually studied this, I've come to learn so much. And yeah, pretty much that's how my fitness journey has been. I can confess that I mostly work out for my mental health, because when I'm working out, things are really okay. Yes, because as someone who tends to overthink. Sometimes you get stuck in your head, and yet something about being in an active space sort of pulls you out of your mind and brings you to, earth. So I love that experience. And even when you're in gym and someone, like a stranger walks up to you and they're like, why are you still working out? You're already small. Like, I'm like, well, I have to work out in order to actually show up for myself every single day. So I really would want someone else, because I came to learn that through doing. It's not that I knew it already. But now, if you're out there and maybe you are actually experiencing these challenges that I've just shared, it would be important to know that maybe let me try out this fitness and wellness experience that Monica talked about. Let me see if I'll be fine, so that you don't have to also learn on job like the rest of us. I think maybe lastly I'd like to convey a special shout out to Salma, because we really walked this journey, especially in COVID, where we used to wake up at 6. She really inspired me. She was like, oh yeah, I run every day at 6 a.m. and I stay in Bukoto, so can we meet up and run? And I'm like, 6 a.m.? Oh yeah, when you join the fitness world, you start to learn that 6 a.m. is like normal. For you to wake up and work out around 9 a.m., it's like, so you learn it's better for you to do it in the early in the morning before the heat. So yeah, and she really pushed me. I think that's how it actually really got solidified, because every Saturday you'd have to wake up at like 5:30 a.m. so that you're on the road by 6. And we went through that whole Naguru Hill. So she was my first physical accountability partner, and that has been amazing. Along the way, we've had so many inspiring figures within our community, Ichuli, for really holding my hand to move this thing, because architecture school sometimes would become crazy, and I'm like, you know what, I don't even have to be doing this. And it's like, no, we can still do it. Let's still have the meet. Let's still do things for people. So a really, really big shout out to it, truly. To the community itself, our first Atano Queen, Vanessa, and our first Atano King, Mr. Timothy. Thank you for inspiring us the year 2022, because these people, like, they would show up, you're there, you're all being down, and this person is posting every day. Or if you follow them like on Strava, you see them like covering their distances, being able to show up for themselves every day. And oh my gosh, kudos to that. Shout out to Dr. TK, Tracy Chomhendo, and Andrew Muhimbi, say yes, for those are the Atano Kings and Queens of last year, 2023. Inspiring how they grow and also stay consistent. It really pushes us a lot. So the community has grown. It's amazing, and we really hope that we also get to affect someone else out there, so that they know that this is possible. It's not something that you get to do only because you don't have what to use that time for, especially like if you're working in the corporate sector, or if you're if you're employed. Sometimes it's crazy. Even entrepreneurs, the ones who work 24/7, who don't have days off, sometimes it feels like setting aside this time is a waste of time, but it really isn't, because when you learn that you're putting yourself first, it's sort of like, you know how they say fill your cup before you start filling other people's cups, because those people they're taking from your cup, they're taking from your cup. So you have to fill your cup somehow. And yeah, so that's really what I would I would advise someone out there who's being hit, even if it's just 5 minutes. Please show up. It will grow. It will change at all time. Eventually, as you go, because your resilience, your endurance, your discipline, it all changes. And so is our journey into actually sharing these stories. I can't I can't express how scared I have been to actually do this episode. And I don't know if I can say their name, but they've been like a very positive push. They're like, you know what, you need to start this, like whether someone is coming or not, you need to start. And I think that's why like I really love fitness, because sometimes when you're scared of maybe weightlifting and you're seeing people on Instagram lifting like 100 kgs, 200, it's okay. Lift your 5 kgs and that's fine. Because when you watch that growth, it's amazing how it even happens. So we are going to be seeing more of us. There are so many people out there who have amazing stories to share with us. I can't wait for you to actually meet them. And yes, this has really been amazing. This has been great. To everyone who has contributed to this coming to life, to the people who ever came to our first physical meet, Laotong. Honestly, it's been an interesting journey, and it continues to be interesting, and we hope to contribute more to the fitness fraternity in Uganda in offering solutions, knowledge, community, and so much more as we grow. Actually, as of this month, we are going to be having an Atano meet. Every quarter we decided to have a physical meet so that we don't really stay online. In the future it will grow. People get to meet their partners more often, because we allocate like accountability partners to someone, so that if you decide we shall meet every Wednesday and Saturday, that's cool. If you want to meet every day, that's really cool. So we shall be meeting. It's in plan. So I can say it's something that when I look back, it all makes sense, because when you get design, you get food, you get activity, it all now encompasses into this wellness aspect. So thank you so much for being part of this episode. These are our sponsors for this episode, Art Therapy Uganda, and it's a fraternity that through art chooses to impact our community. They do painting sessions, they do community outreaches, and of course you would know that art really helps with our mental health. You are able to relax, you're able to explore and challenge yourself. For perfectionists, you get to watch yourself. Like, there are those people who want to know everything before they do it, and yet art is like this experience where you have to trust yourself and trust the process and your medium. So Art Therapy Uganda is so much into seeing how to use art on how to contribute to our mental wellness, and you can reach them on their socials: Instagram at @therapyug, and X, which was Twitter, at @therapyug. For Atano Fitness Journey, you can find us on our socials on Instagram, Atano Fitness Journey, on X/Twitter, Atano Fitness Journey, YouTube as well, Atano Fitness Journey, and our podcast, Atano Fitness Journey, Apple Podcasts, and wherever you listen to your podcasts. Thank you so much. This was amazing. I feel amazing. And I'm glad that we got to do this. Until next time, see you then.